Right, so we're recording a bit of a follow-up to last week because we're blatant amateurs and we talked for 50 minutes when the camera only recorded for 20, so that wasn't ideal.
A few teething problems.
And we had some gold. I think we recorded some quality entertainment, but unfortunately it's all lost. So we're just going to go over a few points, aren't we? So this is picking up from the drive out, and then we'll cover some more recollections from the drive back.
As we'll go through.
And you've got notes that you procured from the internet.
Yeah.
Little
so they must
tidbits.
all be true. That's the important thing to know.
Yeah. So yeah, carry on where we left off.
Where we got up to was the torture chamber. So nearly all the torture implements are in perfect working order, and each is as sick and deranged as the next. The floor is on a slope. This was so the blood could drain away down one side of the room. For many thousands of Scots, this will have been the last place they ever saw. The torturer here was a man called John Sage. He was a major celebrity in his day. So
that was a different path to celebrity back in like the 1800s, wasn't it?
Yeah, being a torturer made you a major celeb. But if they had a slope floor, they were obviously thinking.
Aye, but did you notice a slope? Because I didn't.
I didn't. But didn't Graham mention there would be hay?
Yeah, you mentioned that they put like a kind of deep layer of hay on the floor, but still, there wasn't any hay when we were in there. And he said it was the original floor. And
I'd be more surprised if there was hay in there.
Yeah, that'd be weird. But I suppose you don't need that much of a tilt, do you?
No, definitely not. So, before he was a torturer, he was one of King Edward's best men in the battlefield, and had worked his way up the rank to lieutenant. Sage was injured one day whilst in battle. His leg was wounded and he couldn't fight anymore. Sage begged Longchamp to keep him on in the same capacity, but he wouldn't, so he was given the role of castle torturer. Sage was a brutal man, he hated the Scots, and he revelled in the role, even devising some devices of his own. Now we've seen one of the devices of his own, didn't he? Isn't it the one where they pulled someone onto the nails, so it like fish hooked into the back and then they went round the thing into the moat?
Oh right, yeah. It looked like a water wheel.
Yeah.
But just for like...
For people.
Yeah, that sucks. So he's combining like... Well, it's water torture, isn't it? So you're dipping someone under the water for a bit.
But it's more than just water torture.
But no, that's my point. Normally, that's what like a normal torturer would do. Someone who's not like mental.
But he's fish hooking them onto it.
Exactly, with big fuck off like fish hooky rusty nails.
Yeah. It was shitty mode as well.
Oh yeah.
It was full of wee and poo.
Yeah, Graham, the tour guide, made a point to point that out, that the moat wasn't just a moat full of water so you couldn't invade the castle. It was a moat full of piss and shit. Which
Nice.
I've never heard before. Like, do you reckon they invented that?
I've never heard of a pissy shitty moat.
There should be a proper name for it. Like, instead of a moat, called like the brown float or something. like something.
Do you think though what they might have been thinking? Oh, the Scots will try to invade, and then they'll get their smell and just be like, you know what, keep it. It's stinking.
Tell you what though, right? Do you know in Trainspotting when there's that bit in Edinburgh and they've got like it comes up with the subtitle "Worst Toilet in Britain"?
Yeah.
I was on a stag do in Scotland, and probably wasn't the same toilet from the film, but fuck me, the worst toilet in the world I've ever seen was in Edinburgh, so that was in Scotland. Literally about 4 inches of piss, just when you open the door, never mind getting it anywhere near the urinals, just across the whole floor.
Oh, just 4 inches of piss on the floor?
Yeah, honestly, on a tile floor, all covered in piss. It was like a swimming pool of piss.
What, so do you think people were just opening the door and aiming into the room? Is that what you're saying?
Supposed to be, literally. And that was just like tab dumps floating around in that.
Oh.
And that's the calibre of toilet in Edinburgh. Bear in mind, Edinburgh is one of the swankier parts of Scotland. And they're going to be scared of a moat full of shit and piss. Scottish people aren't bothered by that, man. It wouldn't have put them off, I would have thought.
They'd have just embraced that as what you're saying. Fair enough. There's a boiling pot, gadgets for gorging eyes out, barrels full of spikes that would have had a prisoner tied in and rolled around until the flesh was ripped from the body.
That's horrific.
And they died in agony.
Yeah, they were telling us that, and then this barrel was right in front of it, with like, I don't know, 2 or 3 inch nails coming like from the inside all the way around inside. And they're saying like they put little kids in there, and then forced the parents to roll them around. That's not even funny.
It's not funny. I'm sure they laughed as well, Stephen.
Around the courtyard. That's horrific.
That is.
You're beyond sadistic to come up with that kind of torture technique.
The thing is, it's one thing to torture an adult, isn't it? But when you're perfectly okay with torturing kids...
Well, that's the thing. The end result is to torture the parents. which to be fair is fairly effective in this method. But yeah, in means to an end, you're basically torturing a kid to death by a pretty horrific manner.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's not good. It's not
And
good.
like, just to kind of round this up, the Graham the tour guide's like this John Sage guy who's responsible for all these torture techniques. He's wandering around the castle and he's probably pissed off now.
Yeah.
So that doesn't leave you in a very good sort of feeling, does it, when you're walking around in the dark?
Yeah.
But anyway.
But like I say, ironically, and I know we've touched on this, I think we both said we felt fine in that torture chamber when it was locked.
That was a bit. I don't know why. You can't explain it, but that wasn't one of the creepy places, oddly enough.
No. So some of the things the prisoners would have endured at the hands of this man are unimaginable. Sage tortured upwards of 50 people a week for 3 years. That's quite a lot of people, 50 a week for 3 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the maths, but I can't be arsed, it's Friday.
Yeah.
That is a lot of people, that's all I need to say.
Yeah, that is true. As the war was coming to an end with the Scotch, John Sage wanted rid of the Scottish prisoners being held in the castle, so he rounded up the men, women and all their children, took them to the courtyard and put them all on a huge bonfire. The younger children were kept in the Edward room and could probably see their parents being burned alive. They would have heard the screams and the smell of burning flesh. Now we were in the Edward room. That was the king's room, wasn't it?
Did it even have windows?
I don't remember.
Well, I mean, it was dark, obviously, but I can't remember the big windows. But okay. Yeah, probably. Well, I mean, it was the king's room for like 6 months, and then for the preceding like 200 years, they continued to call it the king's room.
Yeah, but didn't he say John Sage would also stay in there when the king wasn't around? So why is John Sage putting young children in his bedroom?
Aye, so on top of everything else, being a sadistic, torturing bastard, he's probably a paedophile. Yeah, I wouldn't surprise.
I mean, this isn't covering him glory, what I found, yeah, is it? It's not.
I hope John Sage's family's not going to come after him and start suing with fucking slander. Can you imagine that?
Anyone with the name Sage.
Aye. Fucking hell.
Sage knew if he released the younger children, they would return one day to seek revenge. So he took a small axe and went to the Edward room and hacked the children up, some as young as 1 year old. The axe can be seen today on the stairwell. That was never pointed out well, was there? And I forgot all about it then.
It wasn't.
The Edward room is one of the most active rooms in the castle, and people often say the chandelier hanging from the ceiling swings without being moved. The room has a foul smell and strange atmosphere. Well, the foul smell thing is the shitty, pissy, crawly, ghosty dude.
Yeah, so is that not in your notes?
No. There was no mention
so
of it crawling, shitty, pissy.
It's the king's room. It's right up on the top floor. I mean, that was a lot of stairs, wasn't it? It must have been at least the 4th floor. There was 5th floor. And yeah, Graham was like, I mean, this is quite a creepy ghost, really. As a dude who walks around on his hands and knees, and he's covered in his own. I don't know how he knows it's his own, but Graham said it was his own piss and shit. And he's been known to grab.
How does he know it's his own?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I know my own. Do you know when you know your own brand?
Yeah.
Maybe. But how does Graham know that about someone else?
Could have he not been one of the donkeys of the thing,
But
potentially?
He wouldn't be covering his own. He'd be covering.
No, that's my point. That's my point.
Well, ask Graham when we go back. That's one of the questions we need to say. Was this dude covered in general piss and shit, or his own piss and shit?
Yeah.
Anyway, he crawls around on the floor, doesn't he? And apparently his ghost allegedly grabs him bits, calves, the other ones, and like kind of pulls it down. So that's pretty minging. And you can smell him coming because like he smells like a dirty tramp. But yeah, apparently he hangs around in the king's room. But that's another question to ask Graham.
Why is he there? What
It's a
right
weird
does he
place.
have to
Maybe
be there?
he's like taking the piss. He's like, I'm a ghost. You can't keep us out of the king's room now. Even if I stink of piss and shit, I'm still gonna hang around here. That might be his whole vendetta.
Possibly.
Which, to be fair to him, is a worthy cause.
That's true. That's true. So this next bit is the bit that me and you sort of dwelled on a little bit, I guess. In the torture chamber, there's a torture rack. This particular device proved to be the undoing of John Sage, for Sage had a girlfriend, Elizabeth Charlton, and one night they were having sex on the rack, and Sage started to strangle Elizabeth to heighten his sexual pleasure. Unfortunately, he took it too far and killed her.
To heighten whose? His or hers?
Hers.
Oh, okay.
So she may have asked him to do it, in fairness, we don't know. But me and you have renamed it the perverted rack, based on this. And we seen that actual rack, didn't we?
I felt a bit weird. Like, never mind all Peter's been tortured to death and that. I just felt a bit weird that he was getting rumpy pumpy and like in a kinky way on the kinky rack or the perverted rack.
The perverted rack.
And again, it wasn't brought up on the tour. But it wasn't a sexy tour, was it? It was like a scary tour.
Yeah.
So it's not something you bring up, really.
So it then goes on to say that Elizabeth's father was a member of the clan called the Border Reavers. Tribal leaders, outlaws, that kind of a thing. And apparently they weren't to be messed around with, and they wanted to kill Sage for this. So they got in touch with Edward Longshanks and said, if you don't give us Sage, we're going to join the Scots. And apparently they were quite a force to be reckoned with. So if they had have joined the Scots, the likelihood was that they would have overthrew Chillingham Castle.
Yep.
So Longshanks agreed, and Sage was hung in the courtyard. And it says here that he was hung in front of a huge crowd. Now the courtyard wasn't massive though, was it? So I don't understand how it can be a huge crowd.
I think that website you're reading from tends to embellish a little bit. I mean, how many people do you think you could fit in there? I mean, it was what?
If it was crammed, a couple of hundred maybe.
Maybe 20 metres squared at the most. Maybe it's not even that. So you couldn't get many people in.
Certainly not enough to say a huge crowd.
But anyway,
I would say so.
And to be fair, there wasn't that many people left in the vicinity, was there? You killed them all.
That's true.
So probably,
So
large to them was probably a couple, maybe 100 people.
Yeah.
That was like Glastonbury to the bloody people back in the 18th century.
So apparently, whilst he was being hung, the crowd started taking souvenirs. So people cut off his toes, his fingers, his nose, and then, like I said on the last video, it gets back to knob and bollocks mutilation. They start chopping off his knob and bollocks as souvenirs. Who wants that as a souvenir? Who wants a phallus as a souvenir?
I suppose it depends where you are in the queue. If everyone, all the greedy people at the front of the queue, have got his fingers and his toes and that, where do you go from there? Maybe it's the nose? Tongue, maybe? But then after that, you haven't got, because you can't, what else are you going to do? You can't start hacking off limbs, because that takes too long. And you'd have to bring your own utensils. So the knob and bollocks is the next logical place to go.
Yeah, that's true.
I would be gutted though, if I queued up and I come away with a knob or a bollock. Because a finger is more dignified, isn't it?
You've got the better chance of having jewellery on a finger.
Plus, people wouldn't really believe you. It's like when people say Hitler's balls in Albert Hall and that. It could be anyone's.
Yeah.
You can't look at that and go, oh, it looks German. It's got a little tash. Doesn't work.
True. That is true.
So it could be anyone's.
So it then goes on to talk about the Great Hall. And it just talks about what was in the Great Hall. So there was a life-size horseman. There was an elephant's head in there, which we completely missed.
That's weird. So we were obviously in the Great Hall and shit went down. So between the four of you think would remember, but as far as I'm aware, Beth and Chris don't remember an elephant's head directly behind them.
That's it.
There's even a picture on the website of us four sitting there, and the elephant's head's right behind them. Obviously, it's elephant-sized. It's kind of big.
Yeah.
I never saw that.
Nah.
Could be a ghost.
And then she's got people's experiences here are cold spots and noises being heard. Well, we can add to that and say stuff being thrown at you.
Yeah. So obviously we'll cover that in the earlier video. The truck shit at you. Probably 2 cups I think got thrown. We never found the first one, but it was definitely the second one was a cup.
That's right.
Yeah, but that wasn't mentioned in the notes.
No, so there's something we can add to that. So this next part is the part that I've been wanting to speak to you about because it's just weird. And we've kept this a secret. Well, I've kept it a secret from you for the past week and a half, maybe.
Yep.
Just to get your reaction. So the minstrel's gallery is a balcony overlooking what is now used as a tea room. So that's where we finished the tour and had a little chat and whatnot. People have been pushed down the stairs here.
If you look on the thumbnail for the video, I think it's going to be a thumbnail. So there's me and you looking like naughty schoolboys.
Yeah, that's right.
In this very room.
Yep, in this room.
Keep going.
So people often suffer from terrible headaches, an awful feeling nausea to the point they feel like throwing themselves over the top or down the concrete stairs. I don't know why you would do that.
That sounds a bit like the compulsion of Tourette's, like we've been talking about recently.
Yeah.
Do you know, you were talking about that dude's compulsed to stab people with a knife?
Yeah.
Sounds a bit like that.
So this is the bit that you need to listen to. There's a story that when the tea room was being excavated, a giant toad-like creature came through a wall and then turned into a human. Then it disappeared.
Who verified this account?
I mean, it's the internet, so it's got to be true. Thoughts on that, Stephen?
It's a bit strange.
I mean, I've never heard of a ghost being a toad. A giant toad at that.
A giant toad-like
If
creature
you're a
emerged
ghost-
from the wall
And turned into a human.
and then disappeared.
If you were a ghost and you were able to pick whatever animal you wanted, though, why would you pick a toad?
I know, they're like frogs are quite sexy, but toads aren't. I like frogs, I've always liked frogs.
I was going to say, I don't think frogs are sexy.
I think they are. They're quite smooth and sleek and like... Anyway, not a toad though. That's weird.
Yeah, a giant toad.
We need to look into that. I think we need to find out when this happened. Because if it was like 1994 and it was a bunch of builders, we could maybe get some interviews going on. I don't know.
Possibly.
But
So
I haven't heard that.
we're going to sort of need to rush through a little bit this part. So let's just talk about... do you want to talk about the chapel, the Edward Room, or the Blue Boy?
In terms of the history,
It's up
what
to you.
happened?
Pick-
We
pick
didn't
one.
really say the Blue Boy or anything. Talk about him.
So the Blue Boy, also known as the Radiant Boy, which we both think's weird. Radiant to me is a term of endearment to a lady.
It is, yeah. It sounds like something a paedophile would say to a kid when he's giving him like sweets out his van.
Or don't you say to like pregnant ladies, oh, like you look radiant today?
You know, but that's a lie. That's when they look like a fucking hippo and they're like, you're trying to be nice. Because you never normally drop in the word radiant as a compliment.
I hope the wife
That's-
doesn't watch this video after you've said that.
Anyway, continue.
We should probably point out that we're in my house with my wife and child.
To be fair, I haven't said she looks radiant yet. So I'm okay.
Yeah. Okay. So he was found in a wall, like he'd been buried alive within a wall with documents that were surrounding helping the Spanish Armada. And I think that's the reason why that he was buried alive. And the reason he's called the Blue Boy is just because they found a little bit of blue cloth.
I know, that's weird, because I always pictured he was like a blue ghost. Like he's wandering around and he's blue, like with radiant blue, you know?
Yeah. And this part's a little bit sad for a little boy is that when they found his bones, the like stubs of his fingers were worn away from like clawing out, which obviously isn't very nice.
You see, that's probably the most famous ghost. It does scream of like sensationalism, but I don't know if it is true. It sucks. You know,
Now,
that's not funny.
On everything I've read, he's meant to be the most famous ghost there and the nicest ghost. But obviously on R2 there was no mention of him. But apparently he lives in the pink room and you're not allowed in the pink room.
It's one of the private rooms you can actually sleep in. That's why. It's in the it's one of them.
Wouldn't do that. So just to wrap up the video, we should say that in the future we'll plan on doing an all-night stay there, don't we?
Yeah, so in the next couple of months we're going to book an all-night as like 10 till 4 in the morning or something. So it's just what we did last time, but 3 times as long.
And this time you get to go in the woods around the hanging trees. They'll leave you there by yourself.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So they'll leave you, they'll lock you in rooms and stuff, and you just got to kind of see if anything happens. But bear in mind, you were a hotspot. Beth seemed to be a hotspot, unless Graham just wanted to put her in scary situations.
Yeah.
So I think it should be good. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. So we'll keep everyone posted.
Shout out to Graham. He was an awesome tour guide.
He was really good.
Was his wife called Jill?
Jill.
They were really good. So hopefully we'll get them two again, and we'll see what happens. But I would highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Definitely.
Cool.